Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are going to continue our topic about the elements of the novel. You remember we have taken character and point of view. Before we start, let's try to have some questions about previous lecture. Okay, who can tell me the answer of this question? Which narrator is free to judge and comment on characters? Which one of these? Multiple narrator, objective narrator, or omniscient narrator? Which one of these? Who can tell me the answer? Yes, that's right. The omniscient narrator is the narrator who is free to judge and comment on characters. Another question about previous lecture. The novelist leaves his characters face their fates by using what? Which narrator? Again, the novelist leaves his characters face their fates by using A. Let's choose the answer from three options. We have objective narrator, omniscient narrator, or subjective narrator. So the answer, yes, that's right. You are right. Objective narrator. Another question. What's the role of the antagonist in the novel? Who can tell me the role of the antagonist in the novel? You remember we talked about characters and we said that we have antagonist and protagonist. What's the role of the antagonist? A. He faces the protagonist and stands against him. B. He helps the protagonist. C. He faces conflicts and finds solutions for them. So which one of these is the right answer? A, B, or C? Yes, that's right. So we have the answer, or the right answer is the first one. He faces the protagonist and stands against him. Again, the role of the antagonist, standing against the protagonist and try to put obstacles in front of him. Another question. Who can tell me the meaning or what's a flat character? Who can give me another name for a flat character? If I ask you, tell me another name for a flat character. I can say it is a static character, dynamic character, secondary character, major character. Yes? I can choose two of these. I can say flat character is a static character or it is a secondary character in the novel. So, the flat character has a secondary role in the novel. Another question, what's the difference between a flat character and round character? Who can tell me the difference between flat character and round character? If I ask you to tell me the difference between flat and round characters, you have to answer like this way. Flat character is about single idea and one quality. So we have a specific idea for this character and only one or two qualities for this character. But the round character has many different ideas and it has different qualities. So this is the difference between round character and flat character. Now let's start with today's lecture. You remember again, we have talked about character and point of view. Today we are going to deal with three elements of the novel: setting, theme, and plot. Let's start with the first one, with setting. The setting, let's start with some approaches from critics, from novelists to this element. Some critics see setting as the place and time in which the events of the novel take place. So it's a simple idea about the setting, only the time and place. It deals with the surroundings, environment of the events. You know the meaning of environment? Surrounding objects. Environment means surrounding objects like farms, weather, etc. These are called environment. Setting is very important for novels, but in poems, for example, it is not that important. So setting is not important for some kinds of literature such as poetry, but it is very important in novels. Setting changes as the action in the novel proceeds and characters grow in the novel. Thus, through time, seasons, weather, buildings, and a lot of other things change. Again, setting changes as the action in the novel proceeds. When we have movement from one event to another, we have a change in setting, in the environment, in the place, and in the time. So, setting changes as the action in the novel proceeds and characters grow in the novel. Thus, through time, seasons, weather, buildings, and a lot of other things change. More than that, the whole setting may become different by moving from one place to another. If the character in any novel, for example, moves from one city to the other, we have a different setting from this city to the other city. During the 18th century, novelists employed a natural setting in their novels as the houses of common people. So we have different settings for the 18th century novels. But in the previous ages, there was a kind of supernatural settings such as huge castles and palaces. Again, we have a difference between the 18th century setting and the previous age setting, focusing on literature, of course. So in novels, we have a natural setting, not like the setting in the previous ages. It was supernatural. The components of the setting in the novel. The first component, we have the physical place. This is the first one. Such as what? Location. For example, we have the name of the city or the country, or we have action at sea or island. The second component, the time. So we have the second component, which is the time in which the novel takes place, such as the year, season, month, day, hour. So we have period of time, specific time or specific season, month, day, hour. Period of time, so we have the length of time, such as restoration. So we have a period of time that indicates an age, for example, such as the age of restoration. Edwardian, Victorian, we call these periods, as we said before, the length of time of this period is very important in the novels. The third component, we have the social environment. What do we mean by social environment? We mean by that culture and social traditions. We mean by that culture and social traditions, such as religious practices, education, and games. We have different social environment from one place to another, so it is related to setting. And the fourth one, the weather. For example, sometimes we have snow, rain, temperature, and storm. They are described in detail in some novels to add something to the setting. These components make characters respond differently when they move from one setting to another. So we have 4 components for the setting. Again, we have place, time, social environment, and the last one, the weather. The functions of using the setting, or the purposes of using the setting. The first function for the setting is used to give characters a place and time to make their actions. Without setting, characters appear lost and rootless. So without this background, we feel that characters are lost. So it is very important to set this element in the novel before we have characters and other elements. So the most important for this, it is a kind of background for the characters and the action in the novel. The second function, setting, is used to add more meaning to the characters and events. It shows the underlying details behind the actions of characters. It even shapes the characters' values. So the first one, it is very important to give characters place and background, and the second one, it adds more meaning to the novel and other elements. The third function, in some novels, the setting is a character itself. So the setting itself is a character. It has a great role in the novel. For example, when a man struggles against nature, so the setting of natural events, we have this kind of nature. It is what? A kind of characterization for nature. It stands against the hero or another character. The fourth function, it makes the novel authentic. By authentic, we mean it establishes the background for the novel. Therefore, a novel is like a picture. The characters are the background. Therefore, a novel is like a picture. The characters are the foreground of the picture, and the setting is the background. So we have foreground and background. The setting is the background of the novel. Foreground, we have characters and other elements. The novel is more artistic with well-done setting. If the setting is misleading in time and place, the reader feels less interested in the events of the novel and becomes careless about it. Again, if we don't have a clear setting for the novel, the reader will feel lost and he will feel less interested in the action of this novel. So if he finds the reader, if the reader finds the setting clear, he will continue reading the novel. If he finds the setting unclear, he will leave this novel and he will be less interested in the action of this novel. Now let's move to the types of the setting. Every place and time that are created by a novelist can be a type of setting which is different from another one that is set by another novelist. So every place and time, we can say it is a kind of setting. Even though setting can be classified into, so we have some kind of a classification of, setting. So the first one, we have 2 types, A and B. So we can classify setting into 2 kinds. The first one, detailed setting. A creative novelist adds a lot of details to his setting because it is very important as characters and other elements of the novel. So a creative novelist pays a lot of attention to this element. So adds a lot of details to his setting because it's very important as characters and other elements of his novel. It needs imagination and creation. So setting needs imagination and creation. But the novelist adds these details to appear real, to fulfill the needs of readers to understand his novel. So the first one, detailed setting. The second one, vague setting, unclear setting. Some novelists use a kind of unclear setting because they focus on other elements rather than setting. So they think that characters and other elements are more important than setting. So their setting is not clear or is unclear. Another division of setting, we can classify setting into two other types. The first one, we have realistic setting. Usually it exists in real life, like what? Like London, Paris, etc. So we have realistic setting. They exist in real life. Or it is very similar to real one, or it's close to a real one. So this is called what? Realistic setting. Another one, second type, imagined setting, unrealistic. So this setting doesn't exist in real life. It is from the novelist's imagination and creation. It doesn't exist in real life, so it is from his imagination. He imagined this setting and created this setting from his own imagination. It is far away, this setting is far away from the real setting, like living on a far planet. We don't have any realistic description for outer space. So if you imagine that some novelists create their setting from outer space, it is imagined setting. For example, the setting of Mars, for example, this planet, we don't know anything about this planet, so it is imagined. Again, it is far away from the real setting, like living on a far planet, buildings that are floating in the air. We don't have buildings in the air. If I talk about a city in the air, which is floating, so it is imagined. It's not real. Setting can be revealed through many things like, so we can have more details about setting by using these things. The first one, we can conclude the type of setting from, first one, clothes, which usually refer to definite place and time. You can imagine if you have specific kind of clothes, you can indicate the setting of this character. The second one, we have products which are made in specific place and time. So if we have, for example, something which was made in the 18th century, so the setting, yes, was related to this period of time. The setting was created in the 18th century. Buildings, some buildings refer to a period of time and can simply indicate a situation that needs a lot of explanation. So we can conclude some information from the buildings of some kind or a particular kind of setting. Now let's see the second element in today's lecture, which is the theme. What's the meaning of the theme? If I say the theme of the novel is what? A theme is an idea or concept that is very important to the novel. So again, a theme is an idea or concept that is very important to the novel. It is a kind of view towards life and people. It is often stated in one or two words. Usually it is one or two words. Sometimes we can say the theme of a novel or a story in a sentence or two sentences, but usually it is stated in one or two words, such as birth, death, or summer vacation. Again, examples of themes: we have birth, death, and summer vacation. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, theme is what? Theme is the subject of a piece of writing. Again, it is the subject of a piece of writing. Some critics see the theme as the deeper layer of meaning beneath the events. So the theme is put beneath the meaning or beneath the events in the novel. We have underlying meaning beneath the events. The theme helps the reader to reach a new understanding of some aspects of human conditions. The reader finds the theme when he reaches a conclusion about something in the novel. So it's a kind of conclusion, it's a kind of the subject of the novel, an idea in the novel, or we can say it's a concept or a general concept in the novel. Again, the theme is what? An idea in the novel, the subject of the novel or the underlying subject in the novel, or we can say it's the conclusion of the novel. Now let's see the functions of the theme in the novel, or the purposes of the theme. The first function, it enriches the reader's experience. So we have more experience for the reader. He will be experienced by reading this kind of novel if he gets the theme of the novel. If the reader gets the theme of the novel, so we have more experience and he will be experienced in the future. The second purpose, we have, it gives the novel a universal aspect. It has an emotional impact. So for the theme, the second purpose, we have, it gives the novel universal aspect. It has an emotional impact on the reader that makes the novel unforgettable. The third function, the theme reveals the novelist's views. So again, we have the functions of the theme. The first function, it adds more experience for the reader. It gives the novel a universal aspect. This is the second function. And the third one, it reveals the novelist's views. So we can sense the ideas of the novelist by sensing or concluding the theme of the novel. These are the functions of the theme. Now let's see the types of themes. What are the types of themes? In novels, usually we have two types as stated by Jeremy Hawthorne. Let's see his division. The first one, we have covered theme, or we can call it implicit theme. In this kind of theme, the reader discovers this kind of theme, which can be either consciously intended and indicated. So it is obvious, or it is intended and indicated by the novelist, or discovered by the reader, which perhaps the novelist himself was unaware of it. So it is covered. You know the meaning of covered? Yes, that's right. So it is implied in the novel. It's not stated directly in which the novel or the novelist can put it directly to the reader. It is covered. You can discover it if you read the novel deeply. The second one, the overt theme, yes, it's not covered. This kind of theme is not covered, so the reader discovers this kind of theme from the actions of characters and other elements of the novel. So it's directly stated in the novel. We don't have to spend a lot of time in order to discover this kind of theme. It's clear, and we can get this kind of theme by surface reading. So again, it's overt, it is not covered. Another name for this theme, explicit. These elements lead directly to conclude the theme. For example, it is set through the exposition of events and characters. Now let's see the impact of themes on readers. An experienced novelist doesn't state his theme directly from the beginning. So we don't have to get the theme from the first page of the novel. We have to experience reading in order to get themes. Usually, creative novelist tries to hide his theme. It should be somehow invisible, but he can hint at and lead the reader to come closer to it. So we have some kind of hints, references. So it's not stated directly from the beginning of the novel. A novel may have many themes. Sometimes there are some concepts in the novel which pass by. So we have some concepts, they are not considered themes, they pass by, but they are not central to the novel. They should be central to the novel in order to be themes. So if we are going to say we have themes in the novel, concepts should be central to the novel. Sometimes there are also several supporting themes that help the main theme in the novel. So we have not only one theme, sometimes we have more than 10 themes in one novel. These themes can support each other. Any central idea could be a theme in a novel. Examples of themes: we have individualism. It was one of the main themes in the 18th century. We will see that when we come to Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. When we are going to analyze the novel, we are going to see this theme in Robinson Crusoe. Most novelists tried to fulfill the reader's need during that period, which is the 18th century. For example, we have the theme of justice in the 18th century, revenge, we have death, success. All these are considered themes of the 18th century. Now let's see a third element of the novel, which is the plot. So again, we have, you remember, we started with characters, point of view, then we switch to setting, after that theme, the last one, which is plot. The plot. According to Politon, in the Anatomy of Novel, a plot is a story or a selection of events arranged in time. So if I want you to define the theme, we said that. Now let's define the plot. The plot is a story or a selection of events arranged in time. In this case, an event leads to another from the beginning to the middle till the end of the novel. We have a kind of sequence from the beginning, the middle, to the end of the novel. This is called the plot of the novel. There is a relationship between events. There is a kind of sequence. The functions of using the plot or the purposes, again we have some functions for this plot. We have three. The first one, to keep the reader interested and carry him forward in reading. We should have a kind of a story or sequence in order not to switch from one stage to another, then go back to the first stage. We should have a kind of sequence in the novel. Sometimes we have flashback, then we go to the real sequence of the novel. So it gives the reader an interest for his reading. The second one, to give the novelist a clear way. So it gives the novelist himself a clear way in his narration, in his characterization, in all his creation. The third one, to provide structure for the novel and organize it. So these are the functions of the plot. According to E.M. Forster, the plot requires intelligence and memory. So these elements very important for the plot. We need what for knowing or remembering the plot? We need intelligence and we need a good memory in order to remember the actions and the arrangement of actions. So we need intelligence and memory. Intelligence, an intelligent novel reader sees new facts from two perspectives, isolated and related. So a good reader can see an event as a kind of event which is isolated, only this event, or related to other events. There are sometimes different mysteries all over the novel that need intelligence to unlock them. So we need intelligence to understand some events in the novel. Memory, the plot maker expects that the reader has a good memory, therefore he doesn't leave anything without an end. So a good reader can remember all the events in a novel. So the novelist has to be very careful and has to respect the memory of the readers. He shouldn't leave any event without an end. He should complete his action, his plot, all over his novel. According to Forster, he should complete what he started with. Every word or event ought to count. This doesn't mean to set the plot straight, because it becomes less beautiful without complications and mysteries. It doesn't mean to give straight plot without complications and escalating action and resolution for this action. We can have some complication in the plot. Forster says a plot may be difficult or easy. It may and should contain mysteries, but it ought not to mislead. We have to get some mysterious events in the novel, but they should not mislead the reader. There are different techniques of plot making. In the 18th century, some plots were slow moving. There were long elaborations and descriptions that should be presented to meet the needs of readers at that time. In the 18th century, novels were very long. So we expect that the plot meets the need of these readers. So we have different plots. Later on, in the 19th century and later, there were fast-moving plots. So in the 18th century, we have slow-moving plots. Now we have fast-moving plots because there was no need for long elaborations and descriptions. In the 19th and later, in the 19th century and later, there is no need for a lot of description or a lot of details. There was no need for long elaborations and descriptions. The novel reader became more experienced and aware of these details since he was more educated. In the 19th century, the Victorian novels were usually published in 3 volumes. Therefore, the plot had to end in each volume at a very important event that could leave the reader in suspense. For that reason, some novelists changed or modified their plots in order to meet the need of their readers at that time. So they changed the sequence of their plots. Now let's see the types of the plot. We have the first one, arranged plot, which is a kind of traditional plots in which the events are arranged in order according to time sequence of the actions. So we have a kind of sequence for the events and actions in the novel. And another one, unarranged plot, which is a kind of modern plot in which the events are unarranged in their time sequence. For example, there is a kind of a flashback. We can move from this moment to the past, then we come back again to present. We can move to future even and come back to present time of narration. So we have again traditional type and modern type. This is a type of traditional plot which follows 4 stages. Let's have an example of traditional plot. We have 4 stages for this plot. The first stage, the exposition stage, where setting is described, the conflict or the action begins and the characters are introduced. So we have a kind of exposition for the novel or introduction of the novel. Then the second stage, we have complications stage. The plot gets more complex and the characters try to find solution. The third stage, climax, which is the highest point. So we have rising action till the climax. So we have again exposition, complications, and we reach the climax of the action, which is the highest point in the plot, the peak. It is the turning point that changes the action of the plot. And the fourth and last stage, the resolution stage. It is the solution or a kind of finding the solution for any problem. It happens at the end of the novel where the hero or some characters succeed, fail, or sometimes it is left without an end to let the reader conclude this solution or this cure for the hero or one of the characters. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.